you've got a 43-year-old woman that's like, I didn't do anything. And all of a sudden I'm now gaining weight. She is depressed, anxious, she is gaining weight, not sleeping, she's out of control, and she doesn't understand why. So what we do as women is we double down, and we're like, let me work out more, diet more, let me do everything more because it must be my fault. So if you want to lose weight and change your hormones, literally this is what you do.
If both sexes decide to lose weight at the same time and the guy cuts out creamer from his coffee, he'll end up losing 20 pounds. While us women can change our entire diet, we can start counting calories, we can run on the treadmill for hours on end, and maybe we end up losing a pound if we're lucky. Now, in your new book, you talk about the 3 rules to eating like a girl. So what have we been doing wrong this whole time, and how do we start to eat like a girl?
Most women, the biggest mistake they make when it comes to dieting is that they keep restricting and depriving themselves more and more and more. But what they don't realize, and I'll get into the 3 principles here in a moment, but I think this is so important, what they don't realize is that they've been brought into a patriarchal world. By patriarch, I don't mean men. I mean a world that has had power over them, a world that has shamed them, a world that has told them that they're only beautiful and worthy if they look a certain way, if they act a certain way, if they weigh a certain way. And so all our whole life, we have been adapting to this patriarchal world, hating on our body, and then we go into a diet and we don't get the result. And we're like, must be our fault. I should try harder. Part of the challenge we have is that a woman's body, if it doesn't feel safe, it will not drop weight. So a man's body, safety is not an issue, but a woman's body, safety is a massive issue because we were built to house children whether we decide to have children or not. So when we're under constant stress, cortisol is like purging into our body's like, not safe. I'm not going to drop weight right now because that is not a priority. The priority with all this cortisol in me is to run from the tiger. But there's no tiger chasing you. So then what we do as women is we double down. And we're like, let me work out more, let me diet more, let me do everything more because it must be my fault because that's what we were raised to believe. And we look at our spouse who's losing weight left and right, and it's got to be our fault, so let me try harder, raising cortisol more, telling the body more that it's not safe. So outside of the 3 principles, this is something that is not talked about enough. Women their body has to feel safe in order for them to drop weight.
So then doesn't that even then make it worse? Because what you're doing, if you're saying stress is one of those moments, the stress of then not losing weight, feeling like you're doing all the things, wouldn't that then actually make it even worse?
Yeah. Which is why women struggle with weight loss, is because we only have one tool. And the tool that we've been taught is try harder, deprive yourself more. And when that tool doesn't work, we don't have another tool. So what we do is we turn on ourselves. Must be my fault. I must be doing something wrong. It must be my genetics. There's something that I have done. And yet we don't understand our body. We don't understand what a feminine body needs in order to lose weight. We don't understand what a feminine body needs to navigate menopause. We don't understand what a feminine body needs to get pregnant. Like, we have no knowledge of how the female body works, and our doctors aren't trained to teach us that.
So we look at the guys, we copy what they do, and then we beat ourselves up for it not having the same results.
That's right. And their body wasn't designed to house a baby. I do not mean to insult any men, but I have to say it, is that, a man's body is a little bit like a kazoo.
How's a kazoo?
You just blow it and it goes, and a woman's body is like a frikin violin. It needs to be finely tuned.
I like it.
And a man's body is like, it has one thing and it does one thing and it works. And a woman's body, the strings have to be finely tuned in order for it to work properly.
I love that. That's so good. Okay, so now understanding just the basis of the fact that we just do not function the same. And so apples to apples, the man does one thing, the woman's never going to match that. So now take me through what principles should we be using in order to approach all the things that I think that we really care about. So let's just be honest for a second.
Yes.
Losing weight, we actually care about.
Yes.
Wrinkles, we care about.
Yes.
Health, longevity, all of those things, feeling good, not feeling tired, not feeling stressed, not having the overwhelm.
Yep.
What are the things that we can do? And why are we suffering so much?
Yeah. Okay, so first thing is we have to understand that we are massively hormonally driven. There are 24 vitamins and minerals and amino acids, fatty acids that you need to frickin' make a hormone, just for your body to make a hormone.
And that's number one. So that's step number one, right?
That's step number one.
Make the hormones.
So you got to make hormones. So how do you make hormones when you know you need 24 nutrients? Well, first, make sure you're eating real food. Like, get out of the middle aisles of your grocery store, start eating like food that the farmer, you get to know your farmer, and eat fruits and vegetables. And in order to get all those nutrients, you're going to need to stop eating the same foods over and over and over again. So, like most people, what they do is by like unconscious choice, they eat the same favorite foods over and over and over again. So they're limiting the amount of nutrients that are coming in. So like when I go to a restaurant, I literally do not look and ask myself, what do I want to eat? I ask myself, what haven't I eaten?
Oh.
Yeah.
I like that.
That is literally how I choose something off the menu.
I do the complete opposite. I'm like, I need steak. Where's the steak? Where's the steak? There's the steak.
Yeah.
That's so genius. I love that idea.
So like I was in Turkey a couple weeks ago and I got a menu where there was braised goat on it. And I'm like, goat? I don't know if I like goat. I've never even tried goat, but wonder what the amino acid profile of goat is. And I wonder what my microbes will think of goat. So it ended up being really yummy, but I was like so excited to have goat. So if we're going to start to use food to make hormones, we can't keep eating the same thing over and over and over again. We need to start to expand the types of foods that we are exposing our body to. So then we're going to get those key 24. So that's principle number one, that alone will change somebody's life. And this is why fast food in the Western diet is doing so horrible, is it doesn't have any nutrients in it. Stop eating the same thing. Open that up. Okay. Number two is that once a hormone is made, it has to be broken down so it is usable to your cells. Mm-hmm. The analogy I use in the book is, and this is one that I had to learn the hard way because I am not techie, is like when you make a big document on your computer and you can't send it via email, like a manuscript that's maybe 83,000 words, like Fast Like a Girl was. You have to compress the document and reformat it so you can email it. Our hormones are the same way. When you actually get a hormone in, it has to be metabolized. And metabolized means it has to be broken down and reformatted in order for it to get into your cells. So the primary organ that reformats it is our gut. The liver helps as well. But those two organs take estrogen, reformat it, and then make it so that it can get into the cell so it can activate. So when we're looking at food through the lens of that, what are we doing to feed our microbiome? And this is diversity helps, but this is where the polyphenol, probiotic, prebiotic foods come in. So these are your fermented foods. These are, polyphenol foods. In researching this book and putting it together, I feel like I now have a love affair with olive oil. And then some of the olive oils actually have polyphenol counts on the back of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've started getting obsessed with that.
And I assume the higher the better.
Higher the better.
Okay.
Because if I drizzle olive oil all over my salad, then with a high polyphenol count, now I'm feeding the microbes that are going to reformat estrogen and make estrogen more usable to my cells. To go back to your original comment, if estrogen doesn't get broken down, guess where it gets stored?
Fat cells?
In fat.
Really?
And guess where those fat cells are?
Tummy?
Yep.
Oh, Jesus, of course. Wow.
And breast tissue and belly fat.
Well, breast I don't mind.
Yeah.
Well, I could use a bit there.
Yeah, but I can tell you I've sat with many women that do mind.
Oh, yeah. That's
But now we're 42 years old and we're not eating the foods that are supporting the microbiome, so they're not being broken down. So the intelligent body is like, okay, well, I better store this somewhere. And the best place I can store it is belly fat and bibs. And now you've got a 43-year-old woman that's like, I didn't do anything. And all of a sudden I'm now gaining weight. What did I do? And it's because you missed the lecture on breaking a hormone down so it's usable to the cell. And because you missed that lecture, your brilliant body is trying to save your life and is like storing it in fat.
Mm-hmm. And what we've been doing wrong is counting calories. And so we're maybe not using the olive oil because maybe it's high in calories. So we're like, well, we shouldn't have those calories. We should just eat the lettuce by itself.
That's right.
But what you're actually saying is it's better to put the olive oil on it with the lettuce, even though you're having more calories because it's better for you to break things down and actually help you not gain the fat.
You got it. So this is what, I was on a podcast a couple days ago and the interviewer was a man and we talked about this exact thing. Calorie in, calorie out versus fasting and what I'm recommending, which is a fasting lifestyle. And it's where you create an eating window and a fasting window. And he said that about olive oil. He's like, but if I drizzle olive oil over everything, then I'm going to start increasing calories and then I'm going to start gaining weight. And my point was that's because you're a man and that might work for you as a man. But as a woman, if I don't feed my microbes in my gut the nutrients that it needs, it can't break estrogen down. And my body was so brilliantly designed that what it's now going to do is it's going to store that in belly fat. So that olive oil I don't care what the calories are on it. I care about these bacteria that will reformat estrogen and be able to make it usable to your cells and not stored in fat.
I would never have believed what you said was true. It doesn't, in my mind, because I'm like, okay, how much do things make sense? And I'm like, it doesn't make sense. You have more calories, of course you're going to put on weight. But when I hear experts like you saying that, I then go, trust Mindy and just stop counting calories, Lisa, and just see how you feel. And because you're my doctor and I love you and you're one of my closest friends, I was like, I'm just going to trust her. And so I stopped counting calories. I took off my continuous glucose monitor and I found myself just forgetting about calories and throwing oil and avocado oil over it. And I feel amazing. And so if anyone at home, I just urge them, right, with what you're saying is just give it a shot. Stop listening to all the messaging out there and see how your body actually responds to what you're saying.
What I have now come to realize is that my mission is to help women understand their bodies. And if you understand your body, there's no way you could ever hate it. You could never hate it. It is the most miraculous piece of machinery. And once you know how to line yourself up with it, you will see that you can have all the energy you want. You can have the greatest mental clarity. You will not hold on to weight. Your autoimmune conditions will go away. Your body will work with you. But what happens is we live in a culture that has been offering up a one-size-fits-all nutrition and diet plan. And we haven't been pulling women out and saying, this is how it works for you. And so we are been constantly going against what our body is over here crying for help with. And when your body is gaining weight, what it's telling you is that there's some things you're exposing me to and there's some deficits going on in here in the body. And I don't know what to do with this excess. But I know that if I put this excess glucose, if I put these excess toxins, if I put this excess estrogen, if I put it around your heart and lungs, your survival rate goes down. If I put it in your brain, we know, long term the body doesn't want to put it there because it knows that's the CPU of the whole system. So it puts it around your damn belly, which sucks. But then what we do is we go look in the mirror and we go, what did I do? I messed up again. I'm just trying so hard. And it's around the belly, but the body, if it could talk to you, would say to you, hey, I'm over here trying to save your life. And you're telling me negative things because I put it there instead of putting it around your heart and lungs so you didn't die? That's what has to change. And it's only going to change if all of us together stand up and start teaching women how their bodies work. Every doctor on social media, every doctor in their office, in their own individual offices, should be not saying do this, don't do that, should be saying this is how your body works. And once you understand it, you will intuitively make better choices for yourself, and you can be your own hero. The doctor shouldn't be the hero, the diet, the medication shouldn't be the hero. You're your own hero.
Whew. Fuck yeah, girl. Okay, so in that then, in teaching us what we actually should be doing instead of really just taking the emotion or taking society's word that if you put on weight, it means that you're a loser, you're weak, like all the things that we all know, we internalize. So you eat for your hormones. What you said, then you process it.
Yep.
So you, like a computer, I love that analogy.
Yep.
Once that's happened, you talk about the third step, if you don't mind explaining the third step.
So this is a big one. Then you've got to detox those hormones. And remember, if you can't detox it, if you can't break it down and you can't detox it, those last two steps, you will store it as fat. So detoxing it means that, like if we look at a menstrual cycle, estrogen peaks around day 12, day 13. Estrogen has to peak in order to release an egg. So now estrogen releases the egg because that's what we were designed to do, but it's not like she's like, peace out. She's like, before I leave, I have a few other things I'm going to do in here.
Sounds like us.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna stimulate the receptor sites in your brain, and I'm gonna give you all these incredible neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin and acetylcholine. And then I'm actually gonna go into the joint space and I'm gonna make sure there's enough collagen in there, enough lubrication in there. I'll go to other areas and make sure vaginally you're lubricated and nasally you're lubricated. And on my exit, I'm gonna go ahead and make a little bit of collagen so we can stop all those wrinkles. And then, I forgot, I need to go to the heart and lung on my way out, so that I can stimulate the heart and lung and make sure that it's keeping well. And then I'm gonna make my exit. And the only thing I ask of you is that you have a daily bowel movement so I can get out. I'm gonna ask that you make sure your lymph system, which we'll talk about in a minute, is actually working well. I'm gonna ask you to help the liver break me down for my exit so it can detoxify me and make it so that I can get out of your system. I'm gonna make sure that the skin, you're actually sweating so I can get out. If estrogen could talk to you, that's what she would say. I did my job, I released an egg, I now went and stimulated all these other things. All I need you to do is support these detox organs so I can leave. And if you don't support these detox organs, then I'm gonna stick around and I'm gonna go to belly fat. You get it?
Yeah, I get it.
And
That's
so then,
so well explained.
And so then what's happening is with estrogen alone, what women are doing is, let me lather on some beauty products that have synthetic estrogen in it. Let me put on makeup products that have synthetic estrogen. I'm eating all these toxic foods that are estrogen mimickers. Pesticides, for example, sprayed on our chemicals on our food, estrogen mimicker. So now we have our own internal estrogen system, and we have this outside estrogen system. And if those detox organs are not well nourished, you are storing estrogen over and over and over again every monthly cycle. And now we have not just an obesity epidemic, but we have a breast cancer epidemic, and we've got an ovarian, all the hormonal cancers that are going on. And we have infertility because all this fake estrogen has been pummeled into our system. Our body thinks it has some estrogen, but it's not really the right estrogen to release an egg. And we're not moving through that cycle and detoxing this. And this is where food can help.
So when you go into perimenopause and menopause and you don't have that cycle, how are women, as you know, I'm getting into perimenopause, how do we release those toxins if we're not having that cycle?
Right. Well, no matter what age you are, you always want to think of two primary detox organs, which is your gut and your liver. So those always have to be well nourished. And as you know, a lot of toxicity, toxic living, and toxic stress destroys the microbiome. So we want to make sure that we're eating not only diversity of foods, but that we're putting in these probiotic, prebiotic, and polyphenol foods. So I list massive lists in the book on that. we also want to be supporting our liver. And so always, doesn't matter what age you are, the liver is your primary fat-burning organ. Your liver is also your primary metabolic organ that will I guess it works in conjunction with the gut, but it's your primary organ to break down these hormones. So if I'm 45 and maybe I'm losing these hormones, in order to be able to use the age-appropriate hormones that you have, in order to detox these hormones, better make sure your gut and liver are in good shape. So you'll see it all over the book, I put those two as these hero organs. I can't tell you how many women go on HRT or bioidenticals, start gaining weight, and we tell them, you got to bring more vegetables in, you got to get more fiber into your diet. And they do that, and all of a sudden they start dropping weight because the body's finally able to break these down and detox them and get them out.
In the book, you talk about the 3 main phases in a woman's life.
Yeah.
I love the code words, by the way. Talk to me about the phases and maybe some key things that we can do in those phases from a diet standpoint and a hormonal standpoint.
Oh, I love that. Okay, I called it the warm up, the main act, and the cool down. Because that's really what it is. When you go into puberty, it's not like one day you got your cycle and then your hormonal system's in. It takes about 10 years for the female hormonal system to find its rhythm. That means the hypothalamus and the ovaries have to find communication. It takes 10 years. So the warm up in puberty is really important, that you learn how to eat for your cycle. Make sure that you're diversifying your food choices. Make sure you're eating a lot of liver and gut supporting foods so you can break these hormones down, and make sure that you're eating foods that will support your kidney, will support your gut and liver as well to help you detox the food. So and the lymph, we talked about that. So kind of everything we did there. The cool down is interesting because it is a cool down. It's not like one day you just go into menopause. It's like a 10 to 15 year journey. So just like it was a 10-year in the warm-up, it's a 10-year in the cool-down. And what I think is the most important part is that you are going to become, each moment of the cool-down, you're with the loss of estrogen, you become more insulin resistant. And your brain starts to become less efficient at using glucose. So you're going to need in that time period to learn how to successfully eat some lower carb, cycle in some lower carb food. I teach you how to do that in this book, and it's going to behoove you to start learning how to fast. And if you learn how to fast and get some ketones, your brain will come back online, and you will not gain the menopausal belly weight.
And so you find fasting one of the most beneficial older in life.
Yeah, absolutely. 1,000%. On every single organ system that I see in the body becomes less efficient at the glucose insulin system. So that's the sugar burner system. The fat burner system gives you ketones. We are a hybrid car. So we work off of sugar and we work off of ketones. And as we age, we become less able to use sugar. And so we better get to know a ketone and figure out how to grab a ketone. And that's the root of everything I've been trying to teach people about metabolic health.
So take 2 twins, they're going into menopause. You have one woman that's focusing on the things that she's eating. She's carb cycling, everything that you said. She's watching things. And a woman who is just going along for the ride. What do those results end up looking like?
Well, okay, so for starters, every woman has a different experience with menopause. So I'm going to give an example, but I have sat, it's very rare, but I have sat with a few women that have horrible diets and tell me menopause was a non-event. I have no idea how that happened. They must have some superpower genetics. But most women in those scenarios, the one that starts to eat well and fast and learns how to do a fasting lifestyle and manages stress, and many of the things that we're talking about, she's in control. A symptom appears, she knows how to correct it. It goes away. It shows up. One night she doesn't sleep well. She goes, oh, I got to figure out how I can start to support progesterone better. I remember, because it was in Eat Like a Girl and it was in Fast Like a Girl, here are the qualities that I need to support progesterone. So I'm going to put those into action today. I gained weight. Oh, I forgot. Shoot, I haven't been eating enough fiber. I better make sure I eat more fiber. Oh, I'm losing weight. God, have I been eating enough protein? Maybe I need to put in more protein. She has control. She is her own doctor. She is empowered to navigate the ups and downs. The other woman is just eating like crap, and she's like, I'm just gaining weight. And then she goes out to ladies' night, starts drinking a ton with the other ladies, and she's like, this is a fucking hellhole. What's going on in menopause? And all the other women are like, yeah, it's horrible. I had to get on this, and I had to do this, and I had to do this, and my doctor wasn't listening to me. And this woman is depressed. She is anxious. She is gaining weight. She is not sleeping. She's out of control. It's the doctor's fault. It's the medication's fault. It's everybody else's fault. And she doesn't understand why. And this goes back to where you and I first connected heart to heart 2 years ago when I sat here. And this is why the most common time for a woman to commit suicide is between 45 and 55, because she doesn't understand that process and nobody gave her a lifestyle tool map. So she sits over here feeling like it's her spouse's fault, it's her job's fault, it's raising a teenager's fault. And then she's at ladies' night out and everybody's like, yeah, it's everybody's fault. And nobody feels empowered. That is what I want to change.
The thing that you do, I mean, you do so many amazing things. But I love how you look so holistically at everything. It's not just the food, it's not just how your hormones, it's how you show up every day. I mean, how many times have we spoken about how much people pleasing in and of itself is detrimental to our health?
Yep.
And you said stress earlier about how impactful that can be in thinking through everything, that we beat ourselves up. And so it becomes this cycle where then we feel lost.
Yep.
And our hormones are plummeting and we feel really bad about ourselves. And then put that together with the feeling lost. Is that what you think is then contributing to the suicide?
Yep.
Is that specifically?
Yeah. This is hit a new level of crazy, because we are not teaching women what is happening in that time period. And so we've gone from nobody talking about menopause to this chaos of everybody talking. Oh, that ladies' night out, they're like, you have the wrong doctor. You need to go to a different doctor. Oh, I went on the cream, not the patch. And then the woman's hopping from doctor to doctor to doctor. And nobody has sat down and said, let me teach you what is hormonally happening to you. And let me tell you why there will be ups and downs, but actually you're going to a really cool place. I will tell you, as a postmenopausal woman, 2 years without a cycle, I have landed in a really cool, happy brain, healthy body, love the skin that I am living in. Where you're going in postmenopause is beautiful. Hang in there. And yet we have a culture right now that is not teaching women what that process looks like. And if we don't understand what it looks like, we don't have the owner's manual for it, then we are a victim to it. And you and I align in women are not victims to anything, including menopause. And that is what, this is where you and I link arms. Yeah. Like, that has to stop. We are not a victim, and there is so much you can do. Let's start by rolling up our sleeves and understanding what is going on with your body and your brain. And if you understand that, you will make great lifestyle choices. You will decide if HRT or bioidenticals is right for you. You will hopefully start to see where maybe some of the old adaptive patterns where were people pleasing all the time need to be shed and are no longer serve you. And my hope is that menopause becomes this metamorphosis where you actually turn into the most authentic, beautiful version of yourself. But if we don't have conversations like that, then that transformation's never going to happen. And women are killing themselves in the middle of the transformation, because transformation isn't always easy. But it's the breakthrough that comes after the breakdown. And menopause is offering us that option to come into the most whole version of ourselves, a version that we fully love. And nobody's killing themselves there.
Wow. And how much has it been because of the reputation it has? Like, I think menopause, there was either complete secrecy where my mum never even spoke about it or told me anything about it, or there's the shame that you're going through it because now it actually means that you're quote unquote old.
Yeah.
How much of that plays a part in the part of like depression and anxiety and suicide?
Yeah, I think it's multifactorial. So I really want to be clear that you have a hormonal change that's creating a neurotransmitter change. So there's that. So we can't, that could make you feel suicidal right there. But I have a theory, and this is my next book that I'm writing. So I'm just going to roll it out to you right here.
Yeah. Exclusive.
So there's a feminist philosopher that her name is Carol Gilligan that wrote a book called In a Different Voice. And she discovered that when you asked 10 and 11-year-old girls what they wanted, they gave you very direct answers. But if 2 years later, at 12, 13, 14, you asked them what they want, they said, I don't know, what do you want? And what happened is when your hormones come in, a woman's brain is relational. It actually will work from left to right and right to left, and you see life through a relationship lens. So the 10-year-old, if girl is asked what does she want to eat, she'll say, I want mac and cheese. The 13-year-old girl, after the hormones have come in and the brain is now geared towards relationship, will say, I don't know, what are you eating? And so once our hormones come in, we are adapting and adapting and adapting to whatever the people around us expect of us, whatever the patriarch says, you should look this way. If you're beautiful, you're worthy. If you're a certain number on the scale and you weigh a certain number, then you're going to be sexy. And sexy is what women should be because that makes you worthy because the society says that's what a woman should do. And you are a people-pleasing expert, adapting yourself your whole life because of this relationship brain that we live in. We don't like being out of relationship with people. That's why we're people pleasers. Now our hormones go away and the brain changes again. And this is Lisa Mosconi's work. The neurons that were people pleasing, they go away. And a new neuronal network comes in that helps us see more of a collective, bigger picture. And the amygdala, the part of the brain that was like so focused on, you're not safe, don't do that. If you upset that person, you're not going to be safe. The amygdala screams at you, and now the amygdala changes to become more empathetic. And it becomes more empathetic to you. And so I think that menopausal journey is a return to your 11-year-old voice, to your 11-year-old self that had something to say before it was hijacked by hormones and a patriarchal society that said you need to be ladylike, you need to show up in a certain way in order to be loved. And so now we hit menopause and we have an opportunity to take back our life and stand in our authentic voice. That's what I think the purpose of menopause is.
If that's the case, is that partly then why divorce rates skyrocket and initiated by women after menopause?
This is a question everybody's going to have to individually answer. But you are coming back to a more confident, more clear person who is hearing her own voice and potentially not able to hold back her own voice anymore. And in that, you might realize that the relationship you were in no longer works for you. 70% of divorces after 40 are initiated by women. That statistic should be something we're all talking about. Because as you return back to what works for you, your spouse might say, you've changed. What do you mean? You used to do this and you don't do this anymore. And so that change might create friction in a marriage, and you might decide that is no longer a fit for you.
The stat is horrifying,
Yeah.
but I take it as truth. And when I take that as truth, I go, okay, if the stat's real,
Yeah.
I'm 45, okay, so I'm married, been married for a long time.
Yeah.
I feel myself changing, my moods are changing, my wants, my needs,
Yeah.
my focus is like all of this. And I don't want to be a statistic. So what am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
And that's where I'm like turning to Tom and I'm saying, babe, you need to read the menopause books as well.
Bingo.
You need to understand what I'm going through.
Yep.
And I kind of liken it to a woman pregnant.
Yeah.
So if you have a couple and the woman gets pregnant, these days the man supports, right?
Yep.
He reads the baby books.
Yeah.
He reads the pregnancy books.
Yeah.
He supports the woman. Oh, honey, you got a craving? Let me go get you something.
Yeah.
You're feeling really hot. Your feet hurt. Let me rub them.
Yep.
So now it becomes this teamwork.
Yep.
Because as a couple, you know that you've decided you're having this child and
Yep.
it's you two together. I want that to happen for couples in menopause.
Yeah.
It's like if you have committed to be with a woman for the rest
Yep.
of your life, she's going to go through menopause.
Yep.
So just like having a baby, it's a decision that you're making together to stay together.
Yep.
I would love it for men to think the same way. It's like, oh, my wife's going through this. I'm going to be with her for the rest of her life.
Yep.
We know this is a hurdle to overcome because just like statistics with marriages and people having children, knowing that divorce rates go up
Yeah.
when you have a child, that's the same with menopause.
Yep.
So if we can start to now reframe the way that we think about it, the way that we introduce men to it, and the way that we talk about it, not like it's the end of our life, but to your point, it's now somewhat of a rebirth.
It's a rebirth.
And hey, honey, come along and let's go on this ride
That's right.
together.
I mean, I haven't done enough research to find out if what causes a relationship to survive that. But I think it would be you probably have great communication between two humans. So I love this idea of why do the men come in and start to want to understand everything going on with a woman when she's pregnant. Why aren't we doing that with menopause? I think that was brilliant. But here's what I know that I have seen personally for myself and what I have seen in just watching so many women go through this process is that you are starting to get to know yourself in a new lens. And the more you can express to your spouse this new lens and what you're feeling, the more he or she will feel included in on the journey. So communication is really important. Second thing, what I know from just the woman going through menopause, this is a great time to get some therapy. Like you might, I have a thought about like and I've applied this to my own life and seen other women, like it's time to just let go of what no longer serves you. Like let go of the people-pleasing habits. You might need to have some real healing with some childhood wounds that you are triggering you. So therapy, I think, should be a must during menopause, where you are like working on some of the wounds that are triggering you. So get some therapy, and it would probably benefit your spouse to get some therapy as well, because you need to know your wife is changing. She's not the same. She's changing. So you need to know what these changes are looking like.
Sorry, just to jump in
Yeah.
as well, it's then going back to the analogy of having a child, it's like knowing those stages.
Yeah.
And you would go to a doctor. Could you imagine someone pregnant not going to a doctor?
Yeah.
You'd be like, what are you doing? Of course you've got to go to
Right.
a doctor. So almost tying that to like as expectation somewhat.
Yeah.
It's like, I think then it can maybe free us from any shame some people may still have around therapy.
Yeah. I'll use an example. One of my close friends is a relationship coach, and I went to her when my second child launched into the world and went to college. And I was like, this is really hard. Like my husband and I are just staring at each other and there's no kids in our house and what's going on. And she looked at me and she's like, well, what was your empty nest plan? And I was like, what do you mean? I was supposed to have an empty nest plan? Nobody told me that. And yet, if you think about it, when we get married, we get counseling. We get, whether it's by a religious leader or maybe it's by like a wise elder, we get counseling. Like you're about to enter into this relationship. There's some skills you're going to need to know. The same thing should be happening during menopause. There should be a relationship plan as you're moving through those years. And the further you get ahead of that, the more that plan is going to be helpful in saving your marriage.
So good.
Yeah.
So what was your empty nest plan in the end?
I didn't have one. So, a lot of it was finding new commonalities. That was a big thing. Like it got to this point of like, we can't talk about the kids anymore. We need to have some new hobbies that were new things that we're talking about. So a lot of it was built around that. We changed things like dinner. I was like, hey, I want to eat dinner at 5. We've been eating dinner at 8. I'm really tired of it. I want to eat dinner at 5 now. You start learning to do things like, go on, like I just went on a vacation with one of my best friends, and it was like, that kind of discussion is important. Like, hey, I'm going to go do some things independently now. So all of those things sort of haphazardly happened because we didn't have a plan.
And I love that. We now need an empty nest plan.
Yeah. And maybe for the spouse who's married to the menopausal woman, no, she's changing. She's changing. Guess what? If you wanted her to be the same as she was at 20, it's not happening. She's changing. So how can you support her in that change?
Well, yeah, I've been with him for 24 years. And now I'm changing. Of course, he's going to look at me like, I don't want to say crazy, but like, that doesn't seem like you.
Right.
Because I am changing and my actions are going to seem out of the norm.
Yep.
Especially if you don't know or understand or even think about what's happening.
Right.
It may from the outside just be like, wow, you never used to act like this and now you are.
Right.
You never, like the thing for me is like, I never used to be emotional.
Right.
I never cry.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, you hurt my feelings.
Yeah,
like I'm super sensitive.
Yeah, I have a friend who is in her early 40s, and I've been telling her, like, you're gonna, out of nowhere, you're just gonna start to cry. You might wanna let your hubby know. And the day it happened, she called me, she was like, I'm so happy you told me that, because I had told him that what you said, and then the day it happened, and of course I was crying because it was his fault, she was like, he knew what to do, and he kind of just comforted me and then left me alone.
Yeah.
So you know what I think about it? When we look at a weather forecast and we see that it's raining, we bring our jacket or our umbrella and we prepare for it, and then when it rains, we're like, oh, I knew it was gonna rain today, let me put my umbrella up. If we didn't know that, all of a sudden we're out, we're like, oh my God, it's so wet, it's raining? I didn't know it was raining. And there's a lot more stress. That's what we need to look at with the menopausal journey and relationships, is like, it's changing. Keep in communication and know that a new version, how fun is that a new version of your wife is forming? You might really like this next version. Maybe you'll even like her even more than the first version. But a new version is unfolding.
2.0.
2.0. Wife 2.0.
I love that. Dr. Mindy Pelz. You are officially one of my favorite humans on the planet, and you know this. I love you more than life itself.
Thank you.
Where can people find you, your YouTube channel, and your amazing book, Eat Like a Girl, which is stunning.
Yeah,
the photos and just the content.
Thank you.
But where can people find everything?
Everywhere books are sold, obviously. I'm always going to give a shout out to the independent bookstores, because those are mom and pops that love authors and books so as much as I do. And so let's support them. You can go and ask them to order it. You can go to eatlikeagirlcookbook.com. There's some giveaways. I mean, I'm pretty much anywhere.
Do you know what foods to actually eat so that you stop gaining weight and you can actually finally balance your hormones? Well, if you don't, click here right now to learn.
The most likely time for a woman to commit suicide is between the ages of 45 and 55. We see a quadrupling of depression rates through the